Hello everybody. I wanted to make a video for us RC modelers who are a little confused about the new FAA rule that says that if you're within 5 miles of an airport you have to call the airport and let them know that you're going to fly. I think if everybody knows how to do this and actually calls all these airports, they'll probably get sick of us and complain to the FAA, and they'll probably get rid of this rule. But anyway, the first thing you want to do is go to this website here called skyvector.com and click on World VFR. This is a visual flight rules charts. There's a whole bunch of them and they stitch them all together, so it makes it easy to navigate. Then you click anywhere and use your mouse wheel to zoom in and out. I'll go to where I live, or close by. The way you read this, if you're not used to it, it's kind of difficult. But the way you read this is each little airport, like here's one, they'll have a little round, it's magenta with a line, and this is a paved airport. If you see one with a circle with an R on it, that means that it's some farmer's private airport. It's restricted. It's not for public use. And notice, well, I'll get into that in a minute. And if it's a circle, see where it's Cincinnati, I'll go up here. If it's a circle without, that's not painted, like this one, this is Troy, this means it's a grass strip runway. So that's the first thing you should know. The larger airports, like this is Dayton International, they have these magenta rings around them. These are called, this is Class C airspace. Regular airports, like this little Winchester airport, has this magenta faded line ring. This is a Class E airport. So everything within this ring is Class E airspace. Outside of the ring is Class G airspace up to 500 feet. So that's where it's uncontrolled airspace. That's where you can fly. You don't have to call anybody. But for example, if you live in Winchester, you're going to have to call the airport. This dashed line airport you see here, this is Class D. That means they have a tower. The regular airport, like over here at Winchester, does not have a control tower. This airport does have a control tower. And then of course Dayton International has a control tower. This is Springfield. It's a military, used to be a military base. It has Class D. This is Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. This is Class D. The bigger airports, like this is Cincinnati, they have multi-tiered rings that spread out all over the place depending on the city. This is Class E. This is what you want to stay away from. First of all, to read the rings, we'll start with something easy first, like Dayton. The rings, the inside ring says 50 divided by surface, SFC. That means from the surface inside this ring, from the surface to 5,000 feet, you just add 2 zeros at the end, is the airspace. It's controlled Class C airspace. On the outer ring out here, from 2,400 feet to 5,000 feet, is controlled Class C airspace. This is when an airplane comes in, it's descending, so it'll pass through this airspace before it gets down close to the ground. So these little airports here, like Phillipsburg, they're underneath this Class D airspace. So they have their own airspace, and they just need to stay beneath this 2,400 feet level, or they'll have to call Dayton Approach and get clearance. So these rings are basically the radius of these rings is 5 miles. Makes it easy. That's why the FAA came up with this 5 mile thing. It's not exactly 5 miles. But that's what they're shooting for. Okay, so let's say you are flying. Let's go back to Winchester. Let's say you're flying over here somewhere out in the field. You've come in here and you found out that you were within this arc. Okay, so what do? How do I find out Randolph County Airport's phone number? What you do is you put your mouse on the airport and you right click and when you do that, you come up with this plate. This is called an airport plate. It tells you all the information. This is the coordinates. Most of the stuff you don't really need to know unless you're a pilot. But these are some of the frequencies that they use. But the point, what we want to get to, is we want to call them up. So right here is the phone numbers, ownership information. This number here is the number of the airport itself. If they happen to be closed, you can call this guy. Apparently he manages the airport, and this is supposed to be a phone number that you can get a hold of him 24/7, so I assume it's his cell phone or his home phone. So if you're flying out there and you need to contact the airport, call this number. If nobody answers, call this. Usually they'll have an answering machine. Technically speaking, they just said notify the airport. The FAA did, so I would leave a message and go fly. Or if you really want to bother the guy, you can call up Eric here at this number and tell him where you are and what you're going to do. And really, there's no recourse that I see in the interpretation, the FAA interpretations, that says that they can tell you no. Just use common sense. Like, you can see the runway heading here. This is close. It's not exact, but it's close. To read this is the altitude of this airport is 1,123 feet above ground level. It's lighted. The runway is 4,300 feet long, and that's the airport frequency. And it's got a beacon. So you can kind of tell which way the runway is going here. If you click on it again, let's see, runways. Yeah, there you go. Runway 26. So runway 26 and runway 08. So they're going 80 degrees and 260 degrees. You just add a 0 on the end. So if you're flying, you want, there's a picture of it too. So you don't really want to fly over here, and you don't want to fly over here, but you can fly over here, I suppose. Although there's pattern altitudes and whatnot that you need to worry about. But just stay away from the end of the runway, and you'll be fine. So if there's any questions or comments, feel free to ask. You can see this is Ohio, and there's a lot of airports in the Midwest. See all these little, you got all these rings that are connected to one another. So even though you may live, far away from this airport, and you may not know that there's one over here, and all this is Class E airspace. So you need, if you're anywhere within any of this magenta line stuff, you need to call the airport and let them know that you're flying. And that's just the rule, and that's just the way it is. Go up here to, if you're flying in Chicago, this is a royal mess. You've got this whole area over here all the way around. It's all within Class E airspace. If you live in anywhere near Chicago, you need to pick your nearest airport and call them up and tell them what's going on. And keep bothering them, and eventually they'll get sick of hearing from you. And I imagine eventually they'll either relax this requirement or it'll go away altogether. So, thanks for watching.